I didn't want to talk about baseball again so soon, but we're going to stumble into it again today.
So what are we talking about? Home runs, grand slams, hot dogs covered in melted cheese? What do you got for us?
Nothing that tasty, but something far more common, the high five.
Now, I'm sad that we're not recording this one in person or in front of an audience, so excuse me while I high-five myself. There we go. High five complete.
The high five is a very common hand gesture between two people or yourself in a moment of desperation, like Mike, as a sign of greeting, congratulations, or celebration.
You may be thinking to yourself, all right, so how is this related to baseball? Well, like so many things that we talk about here on this show, the origins of the high five are highly disputed. But there are two early examples of the gesture that may indeed be the true origin.
For many years, it was believed that the gesture first occurred between Dusty Baker and Glenn Burke of the Los Angeles Dodgers in Dodger Stadium way back on October 2nd, 1977. That was the last day of the regular season, and in the sixth inning, Baker hit his 30th home run for the year.
Reporter Joe Muallum captured what happened next. So this is a quote. "It was a wild, triumphant moment and a good omen as the Dodgers headed to the playoffs. Burke, waiting on deck, thrust his hand enthusiastically over his head to greet his friend at the plate. Baker, not knowing what to do, smacked it. His hand was up in the air and he was arching way back," says Baker. "So I reached up and hit his hand. It seemed like the thing to do."
You know, we've all had awkward physical interactions with other people, but few of us have had them become part of the fabric of culture.
That's very true. The term high five actually then ended up in the Oxford English Dictionary just 3 years later in 1980.
We should mention that the name seems to have been created in contrast to the low five, a gesture dating back to the 1920s in African American communities, signifying solidarity.
In the early 1980s, the story spread wildly and was even featured in the ESPN 30 for 30 film, The High Five. I'm not sure if I can really come to terms with the idea that The High Five was created in 1977. It just doesn't seem right to me. It seems too recent.
Well, we will get to that.
Okay.
After retiring from baseball, to kind of wrap up this section, Burke took the gesture home to San Francisco, where it became a symbol of gay pride in his community.
As we mentioned, the story isn't as neat as it could be, so let's talk about some of these iffy parts. Another origin story, first reported in 1980, says the high five was born at a University of Louisville Cardinals basketball practice during the 1978 to 1979 season between two players who thought that giving low fives were odd given their abilities to jump, which is a brilliant sentence.
There is some merit to this story, as high fives can be seen in video of the 1978-79 team, and in 1980, a game announcer used the term in his coverage. So we have original baseball story, we have this basketball story, but then in 2007, a new story arose where two comedy writers and founders of National High Five Day claimed basketball players from Murray State University had invented the gesture in the late 1970s.
They had this whole story about a player learning the gesture as a young boy from his dad. It was very touching.
And as it turns out, totally fake news. In 2013, the writers admitted to ESPN that it had been a publicity stunt and a hoax.
Further back in history, there are examples of the gesture in France and Japan as well without the name attached to them.
The latter is particularly interesting. During World War II, residents of Tokyo nicknamed a part of the city High Touch Town, after the high fives that American GIs would give each other while walking in the streets.
However, it seems that this wasn't as widespread as you would have thought, as the term may have referred to the area's reputation of high-end nightlife activity for off-duty members of the military. High touch may have been an adjective for the type of service available, not a gesture.
Huh. Well, I'm glad that we could solve the mystery of the origin of the high five today. It's really as clear as 420 and all these other stories, right? Clear definition of what happened.
Yeah, 100%. We've done a great job, but there's more to talk about after this break, where we thank our sponsor, and that is our friends over at Moo, an online print and design company specializing in customizable business cards, postcards, stickers, and more for your business. Networking is an important part of any career, whether you're a designer, novelist, or CEO, and you don't want to get caught out by not having a business card at that important moment, and you can be prepared and show your creativity by having your cards made with Moo. Great design is at the heart of what Moo does, and there's nothing like a slick well-made business card. They have special finishes like gold foil, raised spot gloss, and letterpress. Their business cards are so unique. They have the ability for you to create your own card. You can just upload your wonderful work to them and have it in your hand so you can see it. But they've also recently rolled out some templates for business cards as well, drawing inspiration from trends that they've seen among their most creative customers. I absolutely love Moo's products. I love their notebooks. They do great flyers as well. They do postcards, invitations, letterhead stickers. They really help you create something to really show off your brand to the people that you need. Go to moo.com right now to find out more, and you can get 15% off your order when you spend $50 or more and use the code PRINTMOO at checkout. That's PRINTMOO. That is the code PRINTMOO to get 15% off your order when you spend $50 or more at moo.com. Our thanks to Moo for their support of this show and all of Relay FM. Moo, let's get physical.
I think we all know the classic high five, but there are numerous variations on the gesture as known by any 11-year-old kid.
I want to dispel the myth that the air five counts as a high five, by the way. The whole deal is that you have to touch the other person.
You know what, Mike? That's a hot take, but it's one that I agree with. I am anti-air five.
Well, I don't want to be cast in the same way as you. I'm not anti-air five. I just think it's a thing of its own.
Backpedaling, I see.
Air fives and high fives can both exist, but they are not the same thing. But anyway, let's talk about the awkward experience when one person goes for a high five and is left hanging when their would-be partner doesn't notice the initiation of said high five.
Oh, that's super uncomfortable.
Thankfully, I never let myself down with my self-fives.
Speaking of awkward and uncomfortable, let's talk more about the self-high five, where the giver is also the receiver. Who would do that sort of thing? What kind of awkward, awful person must you be? Oh, boy.
Then there's the playground favorite, up high, down low, too slow. If you've never fallen victim to this, one person initiates a high five with a cry of up high, allowing their victim to complete the gesture, building trust and camaraderie between the two parties.
Then the initiator moves to a low five by exclaiming down low, baiting their new best friend into a new level of companionship. As the innocent softy goes to complete the low five, the terrible human-shaped sack of evil pulls their hand away, gleefully exclaiming, too slow, as the victim hand flies pathetically through empty space.
This really is the sickest burn that you could give somebody on the playground. It is brutal.
I'm sad just thinking about all the kids who have fallen for this.
Including me. Like the high five itself, the terrible abuse of its awesomeness has an unclear original story. A BBC television show named Lay On 5 included the lyric "Too Slow to Lay On 5" in its title song.
It also appeared in the 1987 film The Principal.
And in 1991, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character was tricked into the move on screen in Terminator 2.
Clearly, Schwarzenegger isn't hooked up quite right because 2 years later, he pulled the trick on the son of a crew member on the set of Last Action Hero.
In 2008, They Might Be Giants released the song High Five with lyrics high five, low five, slap me five, down low, too slow, a gesture described in the song as old school.
In recent years, the term Y5 has come to light as a way to describe the previously discounted Air 5, but across the internet from each other.
This one is terrible. Is unacceptable behavior. Why would you... Y5? I hate this. I hate it so much.
Of course, high fives have their own national holidays we mentioned earlier. It was first celebrated by a group at the University of Virginia in 2002, generally around the third Thursday in April. A group of students started this by setting up a stand to hand out lemonade and high fives to raise money for charity.
That's really good. I like that.
It'd make me happy to have someone hand me a lemonade and give me a high five. I would donate to that charity. Mm-hmm. And I'll close this out with a little fact. A 2014 medical study showed that high fives and their cousin fist bumps spread fewer germs than handshakes.
Oh, you know what? Forget it. Forget everything I said. I'm going to give you a Y5 for that fact.
Please don't. Well, I'd like to thank our friend Brian for sending in this topic. Pretty fun to get into. If you have a topic you'd like to send us for us to cover on a future episode, you can do that a couple of ways. You can head over to the website. This week it's relay.fm/ungenius/81. We have links to high fives and low fives there. But there's also an email link there on the sidebar. You can send us a note with your favorite Wikipedia article, or you can do so on Twitter. The show is at Ungeniused. You can find Mike there as IMYKE, and you can find me on Twitter as ISMH. And until our next non-awkward hand gesture to each other, Mike, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Adios.